Most companies are not losing margin because of competition, but because execution is sitting in the wrong country. If you're running a business process outsourcing firm or a manufacturing enterprise, you are probably making one of two structural mistakes. Either you are keeping too much execution in-house, or you outsource it but into the wrong cost structure. By the end of this video, you will understand where margin actually leaks, why most outsourcing creates new bottlenecks, and how to structure remote execution so it increases financial efficiency instead of destroying it. This matters because execution costs compound, and compounding inefficiency kills scale. My name is Gazki, and since 2012 we structured industrial trade flows and execution systems between Ukraine and more than 25 countries around the globe. We built this into a multi-million euro trade and service corporation, largely through structured remote teams. And I have never met half of my team in person. And that is not luck, that is system design. Most companies think their outsourcing problem is about labor cost. It is not. And later I will explain one key structural mistake that silently breaks most remote operations. But first, let us identify where the real leakage begins. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Strategy is rarely the problem. Execution placement is. If you run a business process outsourcing firm, your senior people are reconciling invoices at 9:30 p.m. If you run a manufacturing enterprise, your procurement manager is chasing customs documentation instead of negotiating supply contracts. This is not hypothetical. This is daily reality across Western Europe and the United Kingdom. Requests for quotations, supplier coordination, import-export documentation, accounts receivable follow-ups, compliance reporting, internal operational noise. All important work, but repetitive, structured, process-heavy. Now, here's the financial implication. If, let's say, a 4,000 euro per month senior operations manager spends 40% of his time on execution level coordination, you're misallocating capital. Not people, capital. But this is not even the real problem. The real problem is what happens during growth. When volume increases, friction multiplies and margin shrinks quietly. Professional correction separates strategic thinking from execution capacity, not by delegating randomly, by structuring execution as a system. And this is where most companies misunderstand the next step. Many firms try to solve this by outsourcing. Good instinct, wrong structure. They hire in high-cost markets because it feels safe, or they outsource into low-cost markets without process discipline. Both approaches create instability. Here's what happens inside business process outsourcing firms. Hiring cycles of 3 to 6 months, payroll inflation, senior staff firefighting, delivery issues, and client frustration during scaling phases. Manufacturing enterprises experience the same pattern. Documentation delays, supplier miscommunication, payment follow-up gaps, compliance errors. Different industry, same execution bottleneck. Now, here's the blind spot. Companies believe remote execution is controlled by communication. It is not. It is controlled by documented process discipline. And if this part is weak, outsourcing amplifies chaos, not efficiency. Remember this line: outsourcing scales structure. It also scales disorder. Most firms discover this too late. At Gazki, we made a decision early. We would never scale by stacking senior headcount locally. We built a remote execution operating system. Roles are clearly defined, key performance indicators measurable, standard operating procedures documented, escalation paths predefined, daily, weekly, and monthly reporting cadences fixed. No ambiguity, no informal delegation. Now here's a real case scenario for you. We currently run back office execution teams from Ukraine for European trading and manufacturing companies. Procurement workflows, supplier onboarding, import-export documentation, accounts receivable support, reporting preparation. We do all that. Anything that is process-heavy execution work that used to sit inside expensive Western European cost structures. When a Western European counterparty of ours reviewed our internal operating system, he asked, "Are you guys running this from Ukraine?" When he heard yes, he introduced us directly to his procurement department. And today, we're negotiating to take over an entire execution function on a long-term basis. They are not buying creativity. They are buying disciplined execution capacity. That distinction changes everything. If you want the exact operating model we use internally, download our 7-step remote execution operating system below this video. It shows you how to systematize execution before outsourcing it. Without systematization, remote execution fails. With systematization, it becomes leverage. What we built did not come from improvisation. It is deeply aligned with the principles described by Patrick Lencioni in his book, The Advantage. Organizational health is not a slogan for us. It is operational discipline. We run a small, highly aligned leadership core. Trust is not assumed. It is built through radical clarity. We challenge each other openly. We leave meetings only when decisions are explicit, responsibilities are defined, and accountability is mutual. Clarity is everything. So how do we behave? People in our company operate with ownership. Everyone treats their function like a small business inside the company. We do not micromanage. We do not babysit. If someone constantly needs reminders or pressure to deliver, it simply means there is a misalignment, and we address it. If someone needs to be chased, they do not stay. We always ask ourselves, what are we doing right now that matters most? There's always one qualitative unifying priority that aligns the team for the next 3 to 12 months. And then we cascade this clarity. We run daily 10 to 20 minutes execution calls, weekly tactical meetings where priorities are set in real time, monthly strategic sessions, quarterly deep reviews. We do not control people through surveillance systems. We operate through shared commitments and visible accountability. Every task is spoken through. The execution path is drawn. Scenarios are stress tested before action, because remote execution without clarity always becomes chaos. But remote execution built on trust, disciplined meetings, and aligned priorities becomes structural leverage. And that is the architecture behind our company's system. Now, let us escalate this. Most executives reduce Ukraine to one word: cost. This is a strategic mistake. Yes, an experienced operational employee in Western Europe may cost 3,000 to 5,000 euro gross per month. In Ukraine, the cost base can be 40 to 70% lower. But cost arbitrage is not the real advantage. The real multiplier is focus restoration. Senior managers stop firefighting, delivery stabilizes, capital cycle becomes predictable, margins stop leaking through operational inefficiency. Ukraine is not a cheap labor pool. It is a highly educated, technically disciplined execution environment, but only if integrated properly. And here comes the deeper strategic layer. Now, here's the insight I hinted at earlier. Most companies outsource before mapping their internal process. They export confusion and then blame geography. If your workflow is unclear internally, remote teams will magnify that weakness. If your workflow is mapped, measurable, and documented, remote execution becomes a growth engine. Outsourcing is not a cost decision. It is a structural decision, and structural decisions compound over years. This is where capital structuring comes in. If execution is misplaced, your cost base inflates. If your cost base inflates, pricing pressure increases. If pricing pressure increases, margin compresses. And once margin compresses, strategic flexibility disappears. This is not operational. This is financial architecture at its finest. And this is why most firms misunderstand what is actually at stake. All right, now that was quite a bit of information. Let us quickly summarize what we've got. We have 3 shifts. First, separate strategy from execution capacity. Second, only outsource what is fully systematized. And third, view Ukraine not as a cost-cutting destination, but as a structured execution leverage built on a more competitive cost base. If you're evaluating your current operational structure, download our free 7-step remote execution operating system below. It will give you a great structural baseline that you can directly apply in your company. And if you're considering Ukraine as part of your business process outsourcing or execution setup, get in touch with us through the form under this video for a confidential review of your case, and let's discuss how we can help. We will assess your structure, identify bottlenecks, evaluate capital exposure, and show you where disciplined execution can reduce operational risk and improve financial outcomes. Risk reduction and financial gain are both engineered, not assumed. If you found this information useful, we'd be very thankful for a like and a subscription. Thank you for being with us. I'll see you in the next video.